between crossing over from Stardust and hitting solid rock bottom. Somewhere between the grace of God and another double brandy and coke here. What do you say? It's not much of a picture postcard place. There's not much of a tourist destination. I'm sure you'll agree if, like me, you're a cynic in every single way. But then again, what you give is what you get, and if you don't, it's not me who's gonna regret missing out. But don't you scared to try for fear that you might lose. And though I need you more now than ever before, my patience is wearing thin and raw, just hoping and praying for a miracle to call. So if you ever want me, I'll be waiting somewhere between nowhere and Jeffrey's Bay. And if you ever need me, it suffices to say I'm somewhere between nowhere and Jeffrey's Bay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Center Stage.
It's time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gino Spot, the first one of 2024. That's how far we are. 2024 is insane. And Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you had a great season. We had a fantastic, yes, it's been a beautiful day today. Well, it's today the 9th. It's been an absolutely beautiful day out today. And I know that Lippy was out. I've got Dave Lipschitz in the studio. And of course, Fires, we're doing the firing on all cylinders. We're doing the history of Jeffreys Bay, the surfing history, or stories about Jeffreys Bay. Call it what you like. It's just a bit about J-Bay. And that's why we had the introductory song from Anton Collins, which we've been working on just now over the last little while, called Somewhere Between Nowhere and Jeffreys Bay. And I was just saying to Dave, it always reminds me of Sam Minnie, because Sam used to play such a lot at the Savoy and various spots in St. Francis, J-Bay. The surfing scene there has kind of spearheaded the whole everything in J-Bay, in St. Francis, in those areas. They're all surfing spots. And there's a surfing culture there, which we hope to uncover a bit of tonight. And so welcome, Dave Lipschitz, to the studio. Lippy.
Thank you, boys.
Nice to see you,
Fantastic
Dave.
to have you here. I know.
Eventually.
We actually don't need the headphones yet, because we've got in the wings. We have waiting Jonathan Paarman. We have Miles Masterson, and we have Bruce Gold, of course, and Knutsen. We've got all the legends of J-Bay. We've got them in backstage at the moment, ready to go too. So we're going to chat to all of them and find out what, a couple of stories about J-Bay and about the history. And Lippy, you are. I know when I started surfing, I saw you everywhere. It was you were like almost like Car Park John, but you didn't hang out in one car park. You hang out in all the car parks.
Yeah. If I may just add, firstly, Happy New Year to everybody. The resolution didn't work too well. I said over the year I'm going to stop drinking. It lasted about 10 hours. But be that as it may, the surfing history of J-Bay has always been very close to my heart. And although I'm not a surfer by any means, I've always had this fascination for J-Bay. And when we put this list of names together, I mean, we've been talking about getting Dave on the show for a long time, so it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if I look at the guys backstage there's no better men than those guys there to talk about the history of J-Bay. So, firstly, I'm grateful for you coming along. Thank you very much, Dave. And it's wonderful to have Johnny, Miles, Bruce and Chris.
And nice to have you in the studio live too. You know what I mean? Because
That's a little scary, eh?
you reckon it's got a lot of people are worried about it, but it's only me. It's me. You know?
No, I'm not worried about you. It's the other people out there I'm worried
Oh,
about.
what about them? They're also good. So, also, guys, thank you to our sponsors, because our sponsors, none of this would happen without them. That's Spa. Spa has been with us now for nearly 3 years. I think almost over 3 years now. I think it's getting up to at least 3 years. And then Fitch and Leeds and our new sponsor Sovereign as well, for a bit of chicken. And they've jumped on for our live shows too. So we've had our center stage guys playing live again on Musos, which has been
What
great.
happened to the caterer? When I first came
Oh
in,
yes,
there used to be
no
food
Fat
there.
Cats. So we just she said whenever we need them, it's just ask, and I've always forgot about Fat Cats. There we go. Grace, somebody tag Grace in the
I'm
comments.
actually quite hungry, I thought.
She is a legend, and we need to get Grace in again. She makes some lekker food.
I just haven't had it in me to ask you.
You know,
I've lost a bit of weight now, thanks.
Really?
But Dave, just give us a little bit of a background of when your surfing start and
Where did my surfing start? In Muizenberg and Milnerton.
Cape Town? So Cape Town boy originally.
I was brought up in both Oranjezicht and Milnerton,
Okay.
and obviously surfed
Yeah.
in Milnerton, but
Okay.
the Jews all migrated to Muizenberg in
Yes.
the 6 weeks holidays.
Oh, a sea point.
Yeah, we went
That's
to
right.
Muizenberg.
Okay.
And my uncle had a bathing box in Muizenberg, and in the bathing box there had to be a surfboard, so we all went to Garlics, which was a
Yes.
department.
Remember garlic? We had a garlics here as well.
And they had a sports department, and we went and bought, the whole family, everyone clubbed in.
Yeah.
The rich uncles paid more than my father, and bought a Sunsurf, which we didn't know at the time was a pop-out surfboard, but there was a surfboard, and
Yeah.
we went into the bathing box in Muizenberg, and that was where, as a under 10-year-old, we started surfing. I wasn't allowed to ride it very often.
Okay.
Why
The,
not?
the older cousins could ride it first, and then when they fell off, we stood on the beach and grabbed it and then paddled it out and tried to catch a wave before they swam in. There's no leashes. So
Yeah,
that's
of course.
when I started surfing.
Jeez, like, and those little colourful boxes on the beach. So you actually owned one.
Well, you paid rent on it,
Right.
Yeah.
and you had it permanently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shame our great mate Donny Adler grew up in Oranjezicht as well, did he?
Yes, in Marmion Road.
Marmion,
just up the
number
road
3.
from me. Yeah.
Really?
I remember going there one
I
day.
was in Hilton Road, he was in Marmion.
Okay.
Also a surfer.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
much.
Donovan and Anthony Adler.
Oh, Anthony,
Rest in
we
peace,
know
Donny.
about his picture framing, but his brother's obviously surfing as
Now
well.
he's got a big glass company.
Okay. Okay, and
And
then
then, yeah, from Muizenberg. How long did you spend at Muizenberg?
Well, it was 6 weeks holidays for years on end, but I got hooked in Muizenberg, and then I bought a surfboard from another cousin,
yeah,
when I was 13.
Yeah.
It was my first owned surfboard,
yeah.
second hand for about 13 rand.
What was it, like a pintail or something?
No, it was a Viking high performer longboard. You know, one of
Okay.
those
9 foot.
bumps on your head from carrying it.
And on your knees from paddling it.
Yeah, knee bumps and toe bumps
Yuck.
and stuff
Okay.
like that. And yeah, we lived in Milnerton at the time, and I had one of those big black delivery bikes, which
Yeah.
had those metal brakes. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
But of course, we stripped all the brakes off because
Yeah.
they never worked.
Yeah.
So we had no brakes. So I used to have the surfboard on my head, and down from my road was a little bit up towards the beach, and there's the wooden bridge. I don't know if you know the
Yeah,
wooden
very
bridge.
much. Yeah.
And the wooden bridge had these planks, and between the planks, of course, was gaps, but quite wide.
Yeah.
And I had to ride down the hill to there. I had tackies on, and the tacky used to get like a ridge in it from you putting your foot in
Yeah,
it.
over here at the back of the
Yeah,
tyre.
with the board on the head, and,
my
and
soul.
then when you got to the wooden bridge, if you went straight, you went into the
Oh, my soul.
gap, and
Okay.
you went over the top, which was dangerous. So I mean,
Yes.
I did it once.
So you had progressed from surfing at Muizenberg to surfing at Milnerton.
Correct. Well,
Okay.
no, I'd love to go to Muizenberg, but lived
Yeah.
in Milnerton, and
Okay.
rugby jersey, white shorts.
No wetsuits yet.
No,
Rugby jersey
So
to
what are
stop
we
the
talking
rash.
here?
We put it
64, 65?
63, 4,
63.
I imagine. We had a fire on the beach,
Yeah.
and so you'd surf for half an hour and then come in, stand by the fire for half an hour, get warm, go back out to rugby jersey steaming. And that was the start. Johnny will know these things.
Yeah.
Well,
So also Cape Town originally. Yeah.
we're going to break away and talk to Johnny now because they've got
Yeah.
load shedding at St. Francis.
Yes,
Is that right?
at 7. I think they've got there's Mervin's online already. He's saying, "How's it?" I see.
How's it, Merv?
Show us your croc, perfect for the show. Have you got crocs? He has got slops on. He's got slops on today, bro.
Well, croc slops.
He left. Oh, they're croc slops.
Yeah, they're croc
Oh,
slops.
good God, man.
Jack the Seals.
I'm a crocaholic.
Oh, isn't it? You like the crocs?
I'm a crocaholic.
That's the word. I see. We got Car Park John online as well. John Skipper saying, "How's it there too? How's it, John?"
How's it, John?
We're running out of beers here, John. We
That
need-
Shane Puttard.
And there's Shane Pittard
Yeah.
as well. I see Shane
Your
there.
mate's gone to Madagascar.
That's why Dave is short.
Yeah, Pitt's gone away.
Yeah, how's it, Shane?
He's saying because you had the board on your head, is that why you're so short?
Yeah, that's why I've got this bald patch.
The bald patch there.
It's from
I've
the
still
lip.
got a bump here from
From the
Kevin.
lip.
Well, he's telling me he got some lady to put a
Maury Lazarus.
Sunscreen.
sunscreen on top of his head like
That
this.
was last week.
Yeah, I saw Maury Lazarus. there.
Hello,
How's it,
Maury.
Morris Lazarus,
Good
how's it
lady.
been? Nice to see you there
Yeah,
too.
he's coming for a surf one day, he says. Him and Mush.
Mush.
Yeah, Maury.
They're both coming to surf with me one day.
Maury's too
Okay.
busy with those forklifts.
Oh, lovely, man, lovely. I see. I see. If it's Vich is there. I think most of the salty scumbags are on us. Yeah, we put it on the salty scumbags. We were both saying we don't know how we're still on this group because it's quite a rough group. This. Lekker. But so from there, obviously, your surfing. When did you move up to PE? Was that later on?
Never moved to PE. I moved to Jeffreys Bay in 74, 5.
Okay.
And lived there until about 85, and then had to go back to Cape Town because I ran out of money. And opened a surf shop in Cape Town called Surf Centre
With what?
with my
You said you had
ex-partner.
no money.
Yeah, he had a little panel van
Yeah.
worth about 12,000 rand, and we put that into the deal. And my dad lent me some money, and we bought it from Johnny's brother, Roger.
Oh, word.
And Sean. Sean and Marky were sort of together in this
Okay.
Paarman Surf Centre, and of course
Wow.
I bought it from them with Grant Byram, my Alan Byram's
Hello,
brother.
brother.
Yes. Okay.
Gee whiz, what a
And
small-
we started Surf Centre after the two Paarman boys decided to pull out,
Okay.
and that was why I had to go to Cape Town eventually. I started making surfboards in Jeffreys.
Was that the sea flight stuff?
Yeah, and I needed somewhere to sell them in Cape Town, and my bank manager was on my case because I'd had an overdraft, and I had making the boards, but I wasn't selling enough to cover the overdraft. So we had to have a shop in Cape Town to sell them, and that's sort of why we.
Started that.
And then it started doing better than the surfboard, so off I went to Cape Town, and also my wife,
Yeah.
not wife yet,
Helen.
moved to Cape Town, so there was double incentive.
Double attraction.
I was chasing after her.
Chased him
Good on
tail
you.
all the way.
Brilliant. I don't understand why I did that. I don't know.
Well, let's bring Jonathan on the screen because Jonathan Paarman, one of the legends of surfing South Africa for sure.
As Dave said earlier, surfing royalty. It's great to have you. It's a privilege to be in your company, as always.
Thank you.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. You've pulled me away from a nice holiday, a break from this moving boat story. But it's quite nice to listen to Dave's stories. I pretty much rode the same path. I didn't surf Muizenberg too often, but I was there. I'm definitely a Glen Beach boy, Llandudno. We didn't see Dave at Glen Beach too often. I don't think he liked it there. But he was definitely a Table View, Milnerton area, which is really popular these days. So he was probably one of the first guys hanging out in that area. I know
Johnny,
them all.
just to give it, just to give it some context, where are other than Muizenberg and I assume Milnerton, where are the now more radical waves? Because the question I was going to ask Dave was, when did he progress to the more radical spots, if that's the right way of putting it? And
Well,
where
I don't
did
know
you
when
start?
he progressed to those spots, but
I never did.
he probably never did. I think why I progressed to those spots is because when you were our age, which we are both the same age, so don't let him cheat you there, and we had to go with the older guys who had cars. So you had to tag along with the older guys, and the older guys, which was the Justin Strong's uncle, David Meneses, and these guys, and they all rode big waves. So if they were going to ride Sunset and you were 12 years old, well, you had to go with, or you rode the Corm or wherever. Those were the spots of those days. You would have to go with and paddle out, and that's what you did. Dungeons wasn't written in those days, in the early days. I mean, we're talking early 70s. And that's it, the game was on.
So you started off as what, a 12-year-old?
Yeah, I think I won a big wave contest at the Com. I think I was probably 12. They didn't want to let me surf in it because I was too young. But that was the Swami Surf Club, which was the guys from Fishhook. Yeah, and that's...
But
just
Jonathan, you've gone on to win quite a few accolades there. How many? Is it South African champion?
Yeah, I've South African champion. I was Western Province champion. I've been Springbok 4 times. Yeah, I've got a couple of things under my belt. I've got 2 seconds, one to Sean Thompson, one to Midget Farrelly in the old Gunston days.
The Gunston
So
500.
I've done my share. I've always
Paid your
been hanging
dues,
in the background. Yeah.
Ask him which one he won in Sunset Beach.
Oh, the Sunset
No,
Beach.
we're going to come to that aspect. Yeah.
Oh, let's hear the Sunset
Sunset
Beach.
Beach.
Tell me the
You know
Sunset
why?
Beach story.
Well, it's hard to say. I didn't really win at Sunset, but I won all my heats, so I was sort of tipped as top favorite. But I think the Aussies thought, no, we can't let this guy even catch waves, because if he catches waves, we're going to lose and he's going to win. So it was quite difficult for me. You got to become quite a strategist when you surf competitions. It's sometimes not about how good you are. You got to really be cool, and you got to work it out, and try not to show them too much. Try and show it at the end, but that's very difficult when you're my age at that time and you're winning heats and getting $100 for each heat you won. So I just enjoyed it. It was I had probably a different approach to some of the bronze Aussies in those years. Kind of fearless, go for it. No one really coached me. I just coached myself. So yeah, it was different.
And Johnny, in terms of our topic or theme this evening, which is the surfing history of Jeffreys Bay. So you hovered around Cape Town there, obviously, which was your hometown. What then lured you to Jeffreys Bay, and when might it have been?
I don't think I hovered around Cape Town too much, because it was school holidays. Before the end of school and after school went back to school, I was in Jeffreys Bay surfing. So my first time surfing Jeffreys Bay was probably in 1968. What would I be there? Yeah, way back. And that's the first year we surfed supers. And then I was lucky to be part of the Kenny Freeland, the late Kenny Freeland, who we lost last year. Robbie Ponting, the whole raw surfboards, which was before David's time even. And they used to build all my boards. And we used to live kind of where Sharon is, but not exactly where Sharon is. David will know exactly where the raw house was. And they used to look after me, and all I did was surf, sleep and eat, and surf again the next day. Can you imagine surfing supers with 5 or 6 guys out? Every wave's yours. I've probably caught more waves in my time than any kid's going to ever do today. So I can't complain. We really had it at its heyday. There were no houses at Supers, just sand dunes. You couldn't see the wave. You had to climb or walk around the beach to look at Supers. In the early days, it was more an indicator, but it didn't stay that way for long. It became really popular in the early 70s. A lot of American guys, the Aussies came, the Nat Youngs. I think one of the first guys was Titch, somebody from Australia. They all came at that time in the early 70s. Dave will know those dates better than I do.
Midget Farrelly.
But they were there.
Midget was there.
Was it Midget Farrelly?
Yeah.
Midget came, all of them came. It was Keith Paul, sorry, that was the name I'm looking for. Keith Paul was one of the first top Aussie surfers Keith Paul was his name, yeah.
So, Johnny, when you got there, you were obviously a teenager still, when you first went to J-Bay.
Oh, yeah, I had to be.
And was it straight into Supers?
No, we surfed the point and we surfed Tues quite a bit. And then there were these two Aussie guys, Maury and the Beast, and they were surfed Supers that Easter of probably 68. And they bet me, I need to go out there and give it a go. That's what they were like with me. So it didn't take me too long. I think if you remember a lady surfer by the name of Margaret Smith, one of our way back lady surfers, her brother called him Slacky. He said, come, John, you can go out there. You can do this. I'll show you. Well, I think I was out and catching waves before he even got off the rocks. So one surfboard in those days looked like probably a Dakar rally car that's just rolled. There were just things every night. You had to fix your board because we used to wear tackies, but they didn't last too long. You just used to either roll or run over the muscles. And the game was on. I mean, in the 70s, we were giving it a full stick already,
and
Johnny, in the early 70s, in the early 70s, it was 8-10 guys in the water, and then quite a lot of the foreigners were there for a while, but that wasn't a problem. From what you see today, it was nothing.
Yeah. Do you think that whole Bruce Brown thing, the whole endless summer story, brought Oaks to J-Bay as well?
Well, I think, I mean, Bruce came up and he put the whole of this area on the map. I was lucky enough to know most of those guys, meet them all, and it had to have put it on the map. But I think a couple of photos here and there, the game was on. The American guys were traveling, and J-Bay was the frontier. Everybody was here. Mike Diffendiver, all these top American board shapers came out. Dave will know most of them because I think he worked with quite a few of them. And the game was on. The wave is fantastic. It still is fantastic. It hasn't changed that much. I think maybe quite a bit of the sand is missing, but the wave's still there when the sand gets into place and it starts running off there. Supers is not a wave that you want to ride it at 10, 12 foot. You want it 6 to 8 foot, maybe a few 10-foot sets, and then she holds the reef. When it gets too big, it runs off the reef. It's okay, but you got to be smart because you got to paddle hard. There's a lot of rip, a lot of current running down the point. So it's quite tricky. You can sometimes give it 2 or 3 dashes and you end up down the bottom,
I wanted to ask you, Johnny, because we're going to talk to Chris Knutsen about this as well. That day in 1971 that I think many refer to as one of the most epic days, or if not the most epic day at J-Bay, where only 4 of you could get out. I think it was you, Gavin, Piers Pittard, and was it Brad McCall? And Chris, I think, was down the beach.
I'm the terrible when it comes to remembering all those things, but I do remember that particular day. I think there's some photos of Gavin Rudolph doing some bottom turns. That was a big day, and in those days We never had all the charts to tell you exactly what swell direction was coming, what we could expect. Yes. But I think there were just big walls that day charging down the point. My partner, Tues, we would never say no, and we would never back out till we were flattened on the beach. It didn't matter what happened. There was always the attitude of, let's give it a go, and let's not let it get the better of us. So that was the guy I surfed with most of my big waves.
What would you say, like a story or something that you remember when did you relate to Jeffreys Bay when and the surfing? Anything that comes to mind? Anything that sticks out?
Well, it's hard to say. It's probably one of those days that we've just been talking about. When if you sit down and you think hard and fast about it, those were great days, charging down those big walls and stuff like that. But Jeffreys Bay is Jeffreys Bay, and it's hard to say yesterday was better than today or today's, whichever way it goes. There were just days when you just surfed till you couldn't surf anymore, and those are probably, they're memories. No houses on the beach, just sand dunes. Collecting shells if you were into that. The beaches was full of shells in those days. It was really, really quite something. And I've had a lot of fantastic moments at Jeffreys Bay. I listen to or I read Sean Thompson still comments about me, because we also big mates. People think we're competitors, but we're good friends. And he talks about blasting the lip. Well, in those big 8-foot days, you just wanted to smash it, and that is probably the thing. You come off the bottom, you just look up and you smash it. It either smashes you or you smash it. It didn't really matter. But those are probably the days, because that's what you could do. Well, the boards of those days weren't as nice as they are today. I mean, the boards are perfect. They're real machines. But what we were given and what we had, we put it together.
Yeah. And also I wanted to find out from you, from a guy that's also, I mean, you're well respected in this whole thing, and so
surfing
I would like to.
As Dave said.
I'd love surfing royalty, and I'd love to know who you looked up to. I mean, who are your mentors?
Or who were the best you've seen in the water there?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I was always in the water. I wasn't sitting on the beach watching them. No, I think I'd seen a lot of great guys coming out and surfing supers. I think what I've seen in the modern era, some of those kids, they really put it together. They make the wave look tame. So in my day, there was a lot of American guys that came out, a lot of the top guys, Sean Thompson, all the Aussie guys, they all ripped. I mean, when you watch a surfer that's come from, let's say, a beach break, where he's got to do short, snappy surfing and up and down and then kick out, then you put them on this arena, and they do the same thing. And that's what we kind of did in Hawaii. When we went to Hawaii, we thought, well, Sunset Beach is a big wave where you go there. We not come and think it's a beach break, and we start hitting the lip or doing stupid stuff. And that's where the South Africans always did exceptionally well. So to take anybody out and say, these are the guys I look up to at Supers, it's really difficult. I mean, I surfed with Piers a lot. I surfed with Gavin Rudolph all the time. We were all in the basket together. There was no one that was just exceptionally better than anyone else. Each guy had his day, and
so the camaraderie there. So it's obviously helped each other as well,
Oh yeah. No, you always did. I mean, in my day, when you surfed the big waves or you surfed supers or you did something and somebody would take off, and he's either going to make it or he's going to get destroyed. So you would kind of look over your shoulder and like, well, okay, there he is. He's alive still, you know. You didn't have jet skis to pick you up and take you out. You were on your own. So
I wanted to ask you about that alive thing. Have you guys ever had days there where you really cut yourself at Supers?
I think you really it's when you get a closeout set and it's that big, and what happens is that you maybe get 4 or 5 of them at once. That's the problem, because you've been nailed by the first one. That's right, I've still got a bit of air left, I've still got something in me. Then you get nailed again and again, and you end up down in Impossibles. Now, if you look at the rocks there, you'd think we're crazy to surf there, and that's the problem. So when you get down into that area and you know you're not going to get back out again, you pull the leash. Yeah. You throw your board away because you're safer to throw the board away. Board can go sort itself out. You've got to now sort yourself out. So yeah, those are the scary moments. That piece between Tues and the end of the car park section.
Yeah,
they're scary.
Yeah, you're right.
Very scary.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dave. If you got, can you poke him for any stories here?
For Johnny,
Yeah.
tell them about the drive from Cape Town through the pass.
Now we're talking.
In your blue bucket.
Now we're talking. I don't know which one he's talking about, but he's probably He's talking about, I think, the one where I got. Let's say it's Friday afternoon. I've just got my driver's license. So I have a little LUV bucky, one little small bucky, and you pile all the surfboards on the roof, and some people jump in the back, and off you go. You know, you drive all night. You know, there's no problem. And well, I turned it over in the pass. I don't know how I did it, but you turned it on its side. No, everything was fine. That's the problem. Well, not the problem, but everything was fine. We pushed it back on its wheels, put it all together, carried on going. Brand new car too. It was a smart car.
Chevy Love, I remember the thing very well.
We surfed the whole weekend.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he was with us. We didn't take the guys
they
from
never
Ski Point,
invited
you know.
us.
Well, thank God you might have been on the back.
He's talking about. It's that one. He might talk about another one where we rolled a combi on the Seal Point, old Seal Point gravel road. That was his friend Piers Pittard at that time, and Gunter Rowe, which is one of the top Australian shapers today. So yeah, we were going too fast and we slid on the thing over the hump, over there through the farmer's fence and landed up in the bushes. Rolled it back onto its feet and carried on.
It sounds like you take corners too fast, Jonathan. I don't know.
We were. So
They were in a hurry.
we needed to go surfing. So
And Johnny, that famous story about you and your brothers hitching to Java and getting a lift with a guy.
that was back then. That was we got a lift out to the Strandway on the old road. You know, you didn't have the freeway which you have today. It was the old road through Kales River and whatever. And we were standing on the side of the road. I think we had our surfboards with us. My brother at that time was quite different to everybody else, so he had to take his boom box, which consisted of the tape deck, and then the two speakers would unclip. So now he's got that set on the side of the road, and he's playing music, and we're thumbing a lift up to Jeffries. We got a lift all the way through, and in those days we could do it. You know, if we got stuck, we had to thumb it. No better than that one, but that's a good one.
There's an old 60s job.
And there were many times that we even had to hitchhike home, you know, and you know, we did it. We did it often. Tommy Kanagoski, I hitchhiked home with him once, and we stopped at Mossel Bay, and then it was getting dark, so we weren't going to get a lift. So we thought, okay, well, we'll sleep on the side of the road. So we go and sleep in the old Mossel Bay. Went through the town. and then the railway line was there. And so we rolled down in the corner, and we were sleeping there. The train come. We thought we were going to die, but we were right next to the railway line. But we hitchhiked around quite a bit. In Cape Town, we had hitchhiked quite a lot as well to get to surf spots. So that's how we got around,
Yeah.
And Johnny, lastly, you told me a story one day in Hart Bay, and it's always stuck with me about paddling into dungeons. It's like looking over, I think you said, a 6-story building. Just give us a little bit on that.
Well, I think when we started to surf dungeons, it is like that. You got to be committed. If you don't, it's going to eat you in any case. So, you don't see what's below you. It's straight over the top. So it's quite hectic. Yeah, you see the beach, but you don't see where you're going to go to. So you just got to go for the feel as you free fall over the top. Yeah.
And is there fear in you, or is it?
In those days, no. Nowadays, it's different. Nowadays it's different. But in those days, you really fit. It didn't worry you, you know. The only time you'd look at a 10, 12 foot or 15 foot wave coming, you go, oh shit, now what? You know, how am I going to deal with this? But then you just dive for the ball and become a Michelin man, hang in there. It's dark for a while, wait, and then go for the surface. So when you do it so often, you don't get blasé about it because the sea doesn't take any prisoners, you know. But you respect the sea, but maybe sometimes we didn't respect it too much.
Lekker. Oh man, Jonathan, excellent,
Thank you
man.
so much.
Thank you so much for coming on. I know your boot's got a braai waiting for you there. It sounds like.
Yeah, they've done something. I see the lights are gone out, so we might switch off just now, or they've given us a bit more power, or something's going on. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for coming in.
Right, look after the big boy next to you there.
Oh, well.
He's in good hands, sir. Take him to the South End later.
I am a little bit nervous.
He's a bit nervous. So he's a bit like shaky, but he's fine.
Yeah, I'll be all right.
He'll be all right. He's done
long
his...
enough, so he's got lots of stories to tell you.
Yes. He knows
Thank you,
everyone.
Johnny.
He knows everyone.
And please,
I've
thanks,
got-
Johnny.
Thanks, Johnny. Okay, so that was Johnny, and I think
We're going to go to Miles.
next we've got Miles Masterson.
Yes,
and,
this is
we've got some interesting stories here as well. We need a little introduction.
thanks
Miles,
for your patience.
how are you, man?
Oh, no worries. Oh, good, thanks.
Lekker.
Thanks for having me on.
No,
So, yeah,
Glad to have you on board.
I definitely wouldn't put myself anywhere close to legend status compared to the other guys on the panel, yeah. But,
I don't know about that.
I grew up in Hart Bay on the Atlantic seaboard. I went to school in Camps Bay, and obviously growing up in Camps Bay and surfing Western Province. In fact, I was on Dave Lipschitz's Surf Centre C team.
Hey,
88, Dave.
88, Mama Trickier.
SA Champs Cape Town. Look, obviously grew up on the Atlantic seaboard, and Jonny Paarman was like God to us. I've got this abiding memory. My first or second time I ever surfed at Glen Beach. And Glen Beach had waves back then. It's the close-out beach break now. The sand's gone for a bit of you know what. But back in the day, in the early 80s, Glen Beach was a wave. I mean, it was a proper wave. Like we used to surf Glenny's on the low, Llandudno on the high. And I just remember this picture of him just slotted, overhead barrel. I mean, it's just like imprinted on my mind from when I was little. I was like 12 years old. So I obviously grew up, with all the legends of John Whitmore was like, Zeus on the top of the mountain to us, and then Johnny and the other Paarmans and all the legends from Glen Beach were part of my upbringing. And, I surfed competitively a bit, but got into journalism when I left school, left the Navy, and worked in the UK on Wavelength magazine, surfing magazine, for a few years. Yeah. And traveled around the world, traveled to a lot of countries, did lots of stints in Indo. And when I came back to South Africa, I worked for Lance Slubbert, a photographer, He
Yeah.
was also, part of the fabric of Joburg as well, with all these pictures that he took back in the day of Curran and that. I worked for him for a bit,
Yes.
and through Lance, I met Craig Sims from Zigzag Magazine. He'd taken it over a few years earlier from Paul Nadir and the guys, and we started a magazine called Blunt, which was a skateboard, wakeboard
Yes.
magazine. And I ran Blunt for 10 years. And then when I left Blunt,
Wow.
I got into quite a lot of surfing journalism and was actually one of the main correspondents for Surfers Journal for a couple of years from South Africa. So I did a lot of coverage of dungeons and went out on the boats and did that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then at some point around there, I was commissioned by Surfers Journal to do an article on John Whitmore. And
Yeah.
got talking to his family, who, I knew some of them. I knew his youngest daughter, Cyan, quite well. She was at Camps High School with me. And she mentioned to me that they'd been talking about doing a book on the oil, but it hadn't gone anywhere. And obviously, I started doing the research for my article for Surfers Journal. And I said, okay, I'll take it on. And let's look
Wow.
at doing something. Because obviously, the OM, he's
Legend.
him and Max Wetland are the legends. They're the two pioneers. None of us would be here without those two guys. So
Well, when did they actually
yeah,
start?
you know,
Was we're talking about the 50s here or the
Late
60s?
50s, yeah.
Late 50s.
Late 50s.
So
John
the
was
OM
working
actually
towards
started
it.
surfing in 1954
Wow.
at Glen Beach.
Okay.
It's quite a cool story. He was a diver, and he was actually unemployed at the time, and he was diving, and he picked up this magazine. I think it was called.
Gone.
Oh,
He's frozen. Yeah.
we lost him.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, okay,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
got you. We got you back. Yeah, we got
Yeah,
you
yeah.
back. Yeah.
And
You were
then
saying you picked up
he
this
saw this
magazine?
picture on the back of this diving magazine from the States in 1954 with a picture of Downing and Buzzy Trent and one other guy, I can't remember their names right now, surfing at Mackay in Hawaii. And he was like, what is this?
Yeah.
This surfing thing. And that's how he got into surfing. He discovered it in a diving magazine and a Janssen swimwear ad. And then he just had
Remember
to find out
Janssen,
everything
yeah.
he could have.
Yeah. He's going out a bit. Let's just have a while
Miles, can you hear us?
while we're getting Miles back here, let's just have a quick look at some of the comments coming in here. Dave, you'll know half of these guys as well. I'm just checking now.
All of it.
Johnny Everett, how's it, Johnny? From Seal Point, a special how's it to the Iceman. Who's the Iceman
Johnny.
now? Is
Jonny
this
Paarman's the
Oh,
Iceman.
Johnny's the
Hellman.
Iceman.
Yes, Iceman. He had ice in his veins every time he took off on
There we
waves.
go. Yeah, didn't
No
know.
one even
No
looked
worries.
at.
And shared grace, but the Bay of Plenty with the 60s through before the 80s. And concrete piers ruined the bay. You reckon
Concrete piers put on.
PE side.
Oh,
Ian Core says, nice bunch of legends watching from Grenada.
All right.
Grenada. How's that?
He gets around.
And
Richie!
and there's Richard Brummer.
Rummage.
Yeah.
What a lovely keys. How are you, Rich?
I hope you're good as well. Ingrid, how's it, Ingrid? It is an interesting one, this one for sure. And Shane Petard, how's it, gents? He says,
Shane, how you,
says
boy?
hello as well. Five will pull that shirt out the cupboard with the mask. I tell you what, they've re-released Instinct.
Yeah.
And,
We're actually going to ask Dave about this later.
Yeah,
We finished with the online guests. But
Yeah.
Knuckle, to let you know, we very kindly got this from Sean Thompson's manufacturer.
Oh, there we go.
Simon de Robillard.
well, let's get
Where's your one, by the way?
Is that?
Where's
Yes, I've
yours?
also got one. I've also got
Yeah,
one.
there we
I'm
all
not wearing
got.
tonight.
Thanks to Simon de Robillard of Instinct.
Yeah, Instinct.
And Sean.
They've relaunched.
Yeah.
And it's a well-loved brand here in this country. Did you
We
stock
actually
it?
want to talk to you about brands.
Did you stock it? as well?
Yes, in the day, yeah.
Yeah,
We made
yeah.
a lot of money out of Instinct.
Yeah.
It was always the pants and then the
Well, the elasticated pants and
to
that
do this
puffy jacket. Remember that? The bomber jacket.
bomber
Correct.
jackets. Yeah, that's
Correct.
right.
There's some-
And there's hush puppies.
Mm.
Did you get into fashion at all like that? Did
We
you-
sold a lot of clothing in the day at Surf Centre, yeah.
Yeah.
In the 80s, we had queues from the Free State standing outside.
Yeah, from the
Waiting.
Free State.
Just to recap, have we lost Miles Masterson?
Yeah, Miles
I
is
try and
gone.
phone
Yeah, yeah. No, it's fine. He'll come on again if he
He's
can
crucial to
make
the-
it on. Yeah. But I think Chris, let's get Chris on in the meantime as well. We can get Miles back again when he comes on.
All right, I hope Miles can hear us.
Yeah, well he'll be.
Hey, hey, hey.
How's it, Chris?
Thanks for your patience.
No problem,
Nice to
boys.
see
I've been
you.
listening to all the discussion so far, and brings back
The
some
boys.
memories, especially from Johnny there. But good to be
Yeah,
on
there
the
you go.
show. Appreciate you guys asking me to
Thank
get
you.
involved, and nice opportunity to bring back some stories and memories of the past and J Bay.
Yeah,
Thank you for
sure.
helping us. Just to give it some context, I can remember as kids we used to go to J-Bay,
Yeah.
and we used to hover down at the point there, and anything over 4 foot or 5 foot, oh jeez.
Yeah.
This little oak was the same age, and in their 10-foot supers, and that's the vivid memory I have of Chris Knutsen. And there was a picture which you and I have spoken about over time. He had baggies on, I think a set of or pair of zero sleeves with a red down here, and a light blue bottom deck board with a white top.
That's correct.
And absolutely shredding supers to pieces, and we sat there in absolute awe.
You've missed the long blonde hair and the beautiful looks.
Oh
he
my
had,
goodness.
no,
what
the
happened?
blonde hair, he had white hair.
It was like down here, and he was one of the prettiest
No.
boys on the beach. Huh?
No, it's gone now. Gone, Chris.
Well, that's from the speed down the line, the wind. The wind blows it away.
Exactly.
The hair.
So there's a
Cornel Barnett
there's a
had that
picture
photograph
of
of
me
the
at-
two of you.
yes, that's correct.
I beg your pardon. Sorry,
the guy
you
you're
carry on,
talking
Chris.
about was a good friend of mine. Yeah, so that guy you're talking about in that particular story, I think Cornel Barnett got that in his surfing little book called Hitting the Lip. It was a good friend of mine and grew up together, was Wayne Shaw, and I'm sure you all know Wayne.
That's right.
And he lives in Hawaii now, and he was the goofy footer, and I was the natural footer. And that picture was taken sitting in the rocks, just checking out our boards and equipment before we paddled back out for another session. And what you didn't get to see in there, which is quite interesting, is that obviously the guys are all wearing booties, and then I hated booties. I never, a lot of contests in Cape Town that we surfed, I tried to wear the booties because it was so bloody cold, but eventually ended up catching a wave in and just ripping them off on the beach and carrying on without them. So as a Durban boy in those days was possible. But in that particular picture too, we decided, no, we needed something for the rocks to scuttle across the rocks, and especially on those very big days, like Johnny was saying earlier, to get caught down at the bottom end there by impossibles was quite scary. And the rocks were just lethal. So we actually we were quite creative. I don't know who was, I don't know if it was me or Wayne or Chen Sagnelli or one of us. We came up with an idea that we could make booties out of an old car tube. So we went to the garage and we got these old tubes and we got some patterns, and we actually made our own booties out of rubber, literally car tubes. And I promise you, they didn't do too bad. They only lasted about 2 sessions, but we just, luckily they were free and we managed to make a couple of pairs. But that's how we managed to save our feet on the rocks for a while. But
Those car tubes were quite wide.
that
If you
particular-
open them up, they're quite big. I think they open up like a book, those car tubes.
Yeah, you
at
slice
that
them
time.
out,
Yeah, and I think if we'd been a little bit more business minded, we probably could have done quite well and sold them. But anyway, we didn't get that far.
Jave probably did.
We just-
No, we didn't. This was way before
Yeah.
me doing business. But I remember making leashes
But
in my
Leashes,
school years,
leashes. Yeah.
selling them to surf
Out of
shops.
car tubes.
No, out of surgical tubing. Remember the surgical tubing
I
with a
do.
piece of rope in the inside?
Yeah.
Put the cord through the middle.
And we used dental floss to close the ends off.
Quite correct, Dave.
Correct.
Yes, Fire's doing a cord through the middle, and I'm thinking the oak hasn't got any sound on his screen. He's going to be thinking, what the hell these guys talking about?
They've all got some. But
Well, that
he's
was
right.
another thing that happened a lot.
What? Oh,
Especially for those with the long blonde hair.
I'm sure.
Chris, just to give us some context here, give us a little bit of background to when you started surfing and how you started and what got you into it, etc.
Okay, so I was born in Johannesburg, and
Wow.
my parents used
Jeez.
to. Yeah, so my parents used to, well, specifically my mom in question, she really love the ocean and that. So they're like in most Joburg people, even today, they head down to the coast for their annual holiday. So her destination that they really loved going to was Scottsboro down the south coast here in KZN. And that's where we used to go. And obviously every single day we used to head down to the beach and carry on from there. So play around in the shore break. And then one of the lifeguards came down one day, and he happened to have one of the, I don't know, but Dave will probably remember, or you guys, that the lifeguards in those days used to have those rubber surfer planes, 2 little rubber handles, and you blow the thing up and you couldn't push under. So the first wave that hit you, you ended up back beach most times. But the guy gave me one of those and said, why don't you play around with this, and so I kind of started on that and got an idea of catching little foamies and stuff. And then they also had the guys, there was someone that used to hire out these, Dave will probably also remember these things, is it's like a plywood, I don't know what they called them, but it was like a piece of plywood with a kick up in the front, and you used to lie on that.
I remember
that used to work quite well.
Yes.
Yeah, so we,
Yes.
so pretty
My
much
father-in-law's got them.
started on. Yeah, in actual fact, I've actually while we're on that, I'll show you very quickly. So guys or viewers that don't know anything about all those type of things in those days. So here's a picture of me that I have on my wall. I don't know, the light's bad. No, you can't really see it. Okay, so
there we go. It's coming. It's coming.
Tilt it down a bit.
Yeah, that's the one.
There you go.
And those
Look at that with a rubber thing.
So how old would you have?
That's the rubber place, and you notice there's definitely no nice instinct baggies and stuff. It was pretty much a Speedo type cosy.
Speedo, eh?
Typical Joey's, and then I progressed on to there's a picture of me standing in the shore break with the blonde hair.
There we go. There we go.
And
how old would you have been now, Chris?
Have to
Yeah, I
lift it
think
up
I
a
was
bit.
about 16.
6.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. That's the one. The little
Joburg's
surfboard.
best
Yeah,
ever
so-
surfer.
Joburg's best surfer. Yeah.
I was waiting to get a key to the city of Joburg, but I don't think I would have taken it because there's definitely no way after my history of the ocean I would never have gone there anyway. But so that was pretty much the start, and then it got to a point where my parents just loved Scottsboro so much, and it was like Johnny was saying with regards to J-Bay. It was in those days we lived in an area called Scottsboro South, and it was like literally living in a forest. We were like one house. You never even had neighbors. It was just animals and monkeys and all sorts of things. But so they decided they wanted to go and live down there. So that we moved from Joburg to Scottsboro and started off there. And I
She was.
joined the Scottsboro Life-Saving Club at Nippers, and started doing Nippers and getting involved in the ocean that way. And then one day they called me in and they said, we want to chat to you. And I said, okay, cool. And I thought, geez, what have I done now? So they took me into the room, and right in the corner there was this little 4 foot, I think about a 4'5" or something, old clapped out knee board, like a knee board type board. And they said, you see that board in the corner? So we've been watching how you just seem to love the waves and the ocean and stuff. So that board we're going to give to you, and it's your board, and we want you to come and surf every day, but only after your mom confirms that you've gone and done your homework. So I said 100%, no problem. But I don't think that even worked, because the minute I'd been given that board, it just kind of all I wanted to do was just go and surf. So yeah, that was the start of me surfing, and eventually.
Just having said that, Chris, I just want to quickly go. I see Shane Thorney at the bottom here. There's a comment it's covered there, and Shane says, "I'm still a grom but frothing chick in the south. All the legends on you grew up looking up to, drawing inspiration from, enjoying the show and the story shot." That's what happens. You get a board given to you, and it starts a career.
And remembering your mother, I don't think she made you do your homework first. I remember that chick forcing you in the water anytime that you needed to.
I must admit I was quite disciplined. I mean, I wasn't disciplined. she wasn't a disciplinarian. She was just like an angel. I think, obviously, through her, I ended up being the surfer that I am today, because I literally owe it all to her and what she did for me and sacrificed for me growing up, taking me to J Bay. Then obviously from Scottsboro, I think we moved to Durban, and for whatever reason, I think my dad used to work for a company in Durban, and eventually it was just all the traveling on a train, and we got late and chasing the train in our old Ford Anglia and catching it at Umkomaas and getting off the train. So they decided they needed to move to Durban, and we moved and ended up staying at North Beach. And unbeknown to me, obviously, right in front of my doorstep was the famous Bay of Plenty. And I went to a primary school called EPHS, and I happened to, didn't know, but I there met Bruce Jackson. Bruce Jackson was at that school at the time. And Bruce and I became friends at school when we were young. And yeah, he just said, you must come surfing down at the beach this weekend and come down to the bay. And I said, oh, where's the bay? And he said, don't worry, it's where the pier is, and there's a little tea room called Dante's Tea Room. You come down there and come surf with us. And yeah, I got down to the beach and that weekend, and that was where the unbelievable story of my surfing began, I think, because I got to the beach and Ernie Thompson was down there with Sean, and obviously Mike Thompson and all the old Bay guys in those days. And it took a bit of while for them to accept me. It was quite a hierarchy at Bay. I think Bay was much classed as the competitive arena of surfing right from the beginning days. Max Wetland was obviously a shaper in Durban, Errol Hickman, and Ginsey was here, and I was that was it, and hung around with Sean and Paul Thompson, and obviously met Wayne Shaw, who was also Gromit, Ken Sagnelli, and we all still friends today. And us as a little Gromit group, we just lived at the beach. It was just an amazing arena to be in, and I think it was just unbeknown where it would end up. It was just we were just frothing groms like there are groms today, I think, and we weren't fortunate. There was no sponsorship. We made our own clothes. We made our own baggies. My grandmother used to make me baggies with string in, and the guys used to pull them down because you couldn't tie them tight enough. So all sorts of things.
Chris, I must tell you something. Do you remember Auntie Bessie who ran Dante's?
Yeah.
That's my wife's auntie.
Yeah.
Helen's mother's aunt is Auntie Bessie.
Oh man,
she's a surfing fraternity.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. And I see your sister's online as well. Is that Michelle? Is that your sister?
Yes, that's my sister.
Hello, Michelle.
Very proud of you, your sister.
Yeah, you're right, Michelle.
Despite all the cuck you gave her throughout your times when you grew up.
Chris,
yeah, so I think she probably have a tear or two on this discussion about J Bay, because she was born down there, and she would really resonate as to what we've been saying, but I don't know. And then from there, it just I just lived at the Bay and fortunate enough to serve.
Yeah, sorry, I beg your pardon. We got this delay with Chris, but I beg your pardon. Sorry, we've got this delay, so you carry on. You were talking about going from the Bay to J-Bay.
And then your move to J-Bay. Did you head down there permanently, or?
Yeah, so I think we also, part of our group was the Meyering brothers. It was Robbie Meyering, the older brother, and then Gavin Meyering, who was on the radio side, and then Mikey Meyering was the younger guy, and they were all involved in the music industry, basically, especially Mikey. So Mikey was one of our little groups, and Sean was going down to surf J-Bay quite often. He was starting to enter into his competitive career, and his dad Ernie was saying, we need to take you to Hawaii and all the rest. And I think Sean's first trip to Hawaii was when he was 13, and I'm 1 year younger than Sean, so I was about 12. But the first trip to J-Bay, The first trip to J Bay was
Still got a landline.
Take us there. No. That's no. So my first
Just we
trip
like to
J
hear a
Bay
proper
was-
ring when the phone rings.
Okay, let me just
Carry on.
Oh, it's fine.
We got this slight delay.
No, it's fine. It's not too
Okay.
bad.
Can you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
hear.
all good.
All good.
Sean said, "Listen, you got to go to J Bay," and I said, "Okay, well, we're going to do this." So my mom decided to pack up the Ford Anglia, put a tent on the roof. We had no board racks. We tied the tent on with ropes, so it consisted of it consisted of myself and Mikey Mayring and my mom, and we headed off pretty much into the sunset, as you would say, towards J Bay. We had no Garmins, no phones, no maps. We had nothing.
No.
And I think we were both 12 years old, and we just said, well, I mean, we were just so stoked and frothing just to get to J Bay because we just heard about it and seen pictures and all the rest. So it took us, I think, about 20 hours because somewhere near King Williamstown it was getting dark and we'd taken a long road and we got lost. And anyway, we carried on driving. And yeah, so, and I do remember, I actually can remember this, that we were driving and we thought we were literally got lost. And all of a sudden, I think it was like midnight, and here in front of us was this little sign on the left in the headlights. It was dark as hell. I don't even think there weren't even street lights in J Bay in those days. And here was a sign saying Jeffreys Bay. I tell you what, we were just so stoked. So we pulled in, turned left, went in there, drove down the same road that it is today, I think. But and then it was just bush, and we drove along and we saw this farm gate on the left. And my mom said, "Well, we're trying to look for the campsite at the point." And there was no sounds or anything. We just saw this gate, and she said, "You know what? We're so tired and everything. Let's just pull in here." And we got out and opened this gate, and we just drove the car in there and pitched up this tent. And it was just dark. We didn't know what was going on. And I promise you, it was probably my image of J Bay. Going back to what you asked, Johnny, I think that for me, I mean, there's many special times for me in J Bay, many special times. But that we pitched the tent and we woke up the next morning, and Marky and I unzipped it or untied this tent, and we just walked. We could sort of hear the ocean on the left, on the right, so we just walked there. And it kind of was a very similar situation to, I think, Bruce Brown's story when he discovered Bruce's Beauties. We kind of just came over this little rise, and we were literally parked and camped at the point, and there was no one out. It was about three feet, crisp offshore blowing, and just this ruler line perfection waves. And I promise you, for us as grommets, it was like heaven. And so that was my first introduction to J Bay. And then ever since then,
What year was that,
my
Chris?
mom had a passion. Wow, so 66 minus 12, if you work it out. I don't know, I'm not that good with figures, but that was in the early 60s, eh? Yeah.
70s, early 70s.
And early 70s, and that was the very first trip. And ever since then, it just became a passion for us. And we obviously were living in Durban, so we used to come back home. But as often as we could, we used to take trips down to J Bay. And then my mom loved it so much that she decided to. Obviously, a lot happened in Durban with the contest scene and everything else. I think I made my first springbuck trial. I was asked to surf I was selected to surf in the springbuck trials, which was a series of events to make the springbuck team. And I was literally 12. I think I was 14, 12, 14, and came down. And there was a series of events from the Cape all the way up Buffalo Bay and all the rest. And I think there was an article in the Buffalo Bay paper where we had one of the trials where it said Chris tames the buffalo, and it was massive waves and all the rest. But so we just, we try to spend as much time coming down. And then my mom decided, I think I was 15, and pulled me out of school and said, right, you're going to do homeschool, and we're going to move and live in J Bay. Well, that was just like my dad had passed away at that point. I think my dad passed away when I was 13. So my mom flew the flag, and she was too soft, as Dave knows. and she just literally paved the way for me just to pretty much do what I wanted. And she bought me a motorbike in PE, and I drove it from PE all the way on the freeway to J Bay. I had a scrambler, and
As a 15-year-old.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, and I forged my birth certificate, and I went into the village, and I actually made a huge mistake because we never had ID books, and I said, well, you got to get a license because there was this hell police officer in those days that just hated all the surfers and wanted a lot.
You remember his name?
And
the traffic cop.
I went and made a photocopy of this. Yeah, I can't remember his name, but cheapers the days,
It was
the times
Chris,
I
yeah.
used to
It was
ride
also
away from
Chris.
Meadow, and he could never catch me.
He's obviously Christoffel.
Could have been.
Chris, big fella.
Christoffel, there's it. Yeah, but that's it. Yeah, that's same bloody bastard.
Hey, he was
But
scary
anyway,
as
so-
shit, that dude. Yeah.
Well, you believe it.
So I actually cocked it up because the date I put on there actually made me 23. So I walked into the licensing the test office as a 23-year-old, and I was literally only 14. But anyway, I eventually got the license and all this. But anyway, that was another unbelievable J-Bay story. But you know, I think
How is that? That's actually insane. That is completely insane.
In the 70s, it wasn't that insane. We did stuff.
It's stuff you make a plan. Like that's like a serious plan. That one, bro.
And Chris, if I may ask, we asked Johnny the question about that supposedly most epic day in 1971, where I know you were on the beach there, when the only four could get out at Supers. When I think Clive Barber said it had gone from 2 foot to 4 foot to 8 foot to 15 foot.
I think it was exactly that. So that particular day I remember also quite well because something happened on that day. So as I was growing up through the competitive ranks and then moved down to J Bay, I'd obviously touched base with, you know, a lot of the slightly older guys than me in those days was obviously Max Wetland and Errol Hickman and Ginsey and Peter Daniels, they all kind of took me under their wing. And when I got to meet Johnny and Piers was for me as a grommet, Piers and all the Paarmans, but specifically Johnny were just my heroes in those days. Obviously Sean, you know, surfing with Sean a lot in Durban, but those guys from the Cape were just amazing, and they just literally groomed my way towards competitive surfing. They took me under their wing, and I'll tell you a story as well about that bloody Piers and Gavin Rudolph too. So, what was I going to say to you? So, you asked me about the big day, yeah. So that
you were sitting on the beach apparently,
that day,
and Gavin came up to you.
Yeah. So I had my board under my arm, and I was going to paddle out at the point. And as I was going to the channel to paddle out at that little channel by Tues there, I heard this footsteps coming up behind me, and I turned around, and it was Gavin Rudolph. And Gavin said to me, "You know what? You got into J Bay. You've been surfing a few Sazi days and all the rest. And have you ever surfed? You're not going to paddle out here." And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, No. You see up there. And as we looked up the beach towards Supers, the set came through, and there were just these 3 hours, like this ruler line hours, waves just reeling down towards us. And he said, "That's where we're going to go and surf." And I said, "Well, what's that place called?" And he said, "No, it's called Super Tubes. And today's the day that you're going to paddle out there. And I'm going to take you out there, and we're going to paddle out." And I said, "No, there's no way I'm going to paddle out there. Not today. I'll come any other day, but not today." So he just said, "That's cool." And off he ran up the beach. And I just remember sitting out at the point, and one wave that was photographed and made the center spread of the zigzag was a wave of Gavin's. And
Yes.
I saw him riding that wave, and it literally looked to me like someone with a needle taking with a white thread of cotton. I could pretty much describe it as that on this huge fabric, and just literally having this wavy S thing, and it was just amazing to see. how he surfed that wave. And that wave ended up on the center spread of Zag. You couldn't even see the top of that wave. And I'd be very willing to say that wave was a minimum of 15 foot and maybe bigger. And I was very happy that I didn't paddle out that day. But, you know, just having those guys, it was just, in fact, that day, like I said earlier, there's probably memories of J Bay for me that are just, they're all special. I think J Bay is a special place. It still is a special place. But those days specifically were just unbelievable. I think I'm just so blessed to have grown up in that era with those amazing guys and legends of the sport. It's very, other than this, it's very hard to explain to kids of today. Like, I got 2 sons that surf, and they just would never absorb what we're trying to tell them. I think that the opportunities that we had, and then you know, like, the one thing I wanted to say, because those guys, Johnny, Piers Pittard, Gavin Rudolph, I mean, if you think of those guys, I mean, as a grommet, who's had the blessing to have, it's like saying I have Geordie Smith, bloody Kelly Slater that you know was under my wing. But so I'm sure there were other kids that they, you know, mentored. But, and then again, with, you know, forget about those guys. It was Errol Hickman, the Durban guys, Errol Hickman, Michael Ginsberg. I mean, they just, for me, are just legends in their own rights, more than anyone else. So, and especially those times. So I was so lucky to have them just mentor me and push me and then all the rest. And that particular Springbok trial, Johnny and Piers we were in, I think, Johnny's combi. If I can remember, I don't know if it was light green. And anyway, we were heading along that road to the contest site, and it was howling west, and it's a pretty much similar situation to Seal Point, where if it's howling west, it's perfect on the point side where you surf, but there's the wild side, and it's howling onshore on the wild side. The organizers got to the good side, the right side, and it was like 2 foot, but it was about 8 to 10 foot on the wild side. And they said, well, this is a Springbok Trials. These guys are surfing to become part of a national team. So we're not going to, unfortunately, guys, the decision's been made. We can't surf here. We're going to surf the wild side. And I think, I was about 14 in those days. And I was with Johnny. I was traveling with them and Piers in this combi. And I just thought, well, I'm going to die here. But anyway, I'm going to do this. So, but one thing I think they'll probably remember, and I'll never forget this. And I was sitting in the back of the combi, and one of them turned around. I can't remember which one it was. And they said to me, they you know, in those days, the Glatties used to pay their dues. I think I got more slaps in those days than my dad ever gave me slaps from friends, surfers, older guys. I was cheeky, or I'd say something, and they'd say, and I said, but you're supposed to be looking after me. And said, you are looking after me, teaching you manners. So anyway, so the dues were the story was that they turned around and said, you're going to make us lunch. And I said, okay. And they said, so from now on, your name's going to be called Kitchen Boy. So I said, okay. So what does that mean? You make us food. So I was the kitchen boy, and I used to make all of those like salmis and whatever else that they wanted, because I had a free ride and they were looking after me and feeding me and taking me to the contest. So, so that was those days. And then, I think J-Bay, and then I started shaping surfboards. Okay, so the school didn't work. I think one day, in J-Bay. So we lived in a little, and Michelle will, if she's still online, she'll remember this. So we lived in a little house behind the BP garage, and it had a little sign on the wall, and it was called the Cozy Cot, and that's where she grew up. And I used to make surfboards in the garage with Mark Ginsberg. Ginsey used to glass the boards, and I used to shape and spray them and all the rest. And I made this board. I think it was like a pintail. It was about a 610 or somewhere around there. And for some reason, something happened with the glassing. So we ended up spraying it chocolate brown. And anyway, we called it the Chocolate Rocket. Well, I think that was probably one of the best boards J-Bay boards I ever had in J-Bay in those days, because the homeschool stopped, because J-Bay was just perfection. When the offshore blew and there was any swell, Supers was just perfect. The sand was always, it was just like a dream. So I think any Grom or teenager in those days that was keen to, that was just frothing, when waves are like that, there's no way you're going to sit and do work. So it was surfing.
Yeah, sure.
And I took this board down, and like Johnny was saying, I still love J-Bay. It's got a very special place in my heart, but it's just sad to see how it's just got out of control with the guys and all the nonsense going on. And because if I think back to those years where I'd pick up this board and go down and surf, this guy said, "Oh, the waves are good." And I actually surfed, I think I had one of the best barrels ever, one specific session at that time at Supers, and I think there was only one other guy out there, and I came out this barrel and looked at the beach, and there was no one even on the beach to even see it, so no photographers, no one. But
did it really happen then, Did it really happen?
Yeah, man, I mean, we had J-Bay like in its best, and I think it's best that it'll ever be, because going forward, it's probably just going to get, the waves are always there, like Johnny says, the banks move around, but those days, like Johnny said, it was like I was often surf with maybe even 3 or 4 guys, and at most, and so, I miss J-Bay, and I love surfing there, but I'm over all the fighting and carrying on, because I can just turn around and loyally say that those were the best years of my life. So we used to live in this little house, and that's where that all happened, and then I think the longing to sort of, not longing, but I don't know, we had some days where there were no waves, and then somehow we moved back to Durban. And I came here and finished my, I went to like a college, and I did a standard 9 and matric combined. I didn't pass because I failed Afrikaans, although we lived at
proper Durban boy.
We're doing too much Australia.
Part of that too, we also lived outside of J-Bay. I know the show's on J-Bay, but just in terms of my history growing and my mom just taking us around, we lived at Victoria Bay for 2 years, and I went to a school in George called Otanikwaha, which was solid Afrikaans. And I used to ride to the school with on my motorbike, and the Afrikaans girls used to hang out the bus and hello, and I had the blonde hair, and they knew I surfed. And so Victoria Bay for me was also a very special place for my surfing. And I surfed days on my own there, and obviously met all the guys, Leonard Giles, and just many guys that have just molded me, and I've just made so many friends just through all those travels, and obviously all the contests I surfed down in the Cape Town. Justin Strong and a lot of the other guys there, Tues, Paul, and Mushhard, all those guys, they were just legends. And I just think, I remember Mushhard jumping off in Durban at a Gunston 500. I don't know. I know he comes from, he's also crazy, but he walked out.
He's my best mate.
So ask Mush about this thing. About one Gunston 500, he decides to walk along that old rock groin at the Bay of Plenty. It was about 6 to 8 foot, maybe bigger, because the way he surfs, he jumps off rocks. So he's not going to paddle out in the channel. He's going to walk along the bricks and jump off the tip of the rock, tip of this pier, and paddle out at the Bay of Plenty. And it was this grinding. And Peter Burness was on the microphone saying, "Listen, that surfer Mush, you can't do this. No one does that. I don't think no one's ever done that." So he says, "No, don't worry," and off he went. Well, Dave will tell you what Mush is like. I love him to bits. But so he goes off there and ended up, he nearly cuts his toe off because he jumps and misjumps it and lands on some other rock at the bottom, which is full of these huge Natal mussels on there, and almost cuts his toe off. So that was the end of the Gunston for them. But and that was it, eh? So, but J-Bay, going back to J-Bay, I had the pleasure.
I'll tell you what, Chris. Sorry we got this Don delay. I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, there's so many things we'd like to continue talking to you about, but I'm a bit concerned about the guys waiting in the wings. So if you don't mind, we're going to bring on the next guy, and more importantly, thank you very much. I did want to ask you other questions. Maybe we can come back to them.
Yeah, we'll
sit in the background, but I'm concerned about the rest of the guys here. Bruce Gold, I think, has gone to sleep.
Yeah, listen, they all but
My arse has gone to sleep.
Don't worry, David.
But Chris, I enjoy the fact that you're a storyteller. So it's been fantastic having you on, man. Thank you so much for
Thank you, Chris.
for your time and great to get to know one of the legends of the sport. Absolutely.
Thank you. Right, we got Miles back. Thank you, Chris.
I think Miles Masterson is back. It looks like we've got him on it. We got some.
Oh, different background. Hello, Miles.
We got you back.
I'm on my main computer now with a
right.
webcam.
Thank you.
Yes, and the I'm sure the wire goes straight into your PC there, which is always good.
Yeah. So sorry
good,
about
but
Miles,
the tech breakdown.
no problem.
this contentious
Where was
issue about who the first, I beg your pardon? You can hear me?
Oh, he's gone again.
He's frozen again.
Oh, there he is, back again. You say the contentious issue about who?
The first to surf J-Bay. Give us the background on who the first was to surf J-Bay.
Surf Supers.
Jeez.
Okay, I think it's probably better
Supers was a different story.
if I start at the beginning, which is when I was talking about the worm, and you know, the one fact that is like undeniable is that John Whitmore was the first surfer to lay eyes on J-Bay. That's without a doubt. After he found out about surfing and he started making polystyrene boards in Cape Town, then he got Clark foam, he met Dick Metz, came over, that whole story. John, the same year, 54, started working for Motors Western Province, who were the Volkswagen distributors in Cape Town. And the combi, he was actually apparently had the first combi of the PE production line. I haven't corroborated that, but people have told me that lime green combi that he had, that famous combi that the worm had, was the first combi off the PE production line. And then very quickly, I mean, his father was a salesman, his uncle was a salesman, he was just a natural salesman, and he was very successful. Again, not corroborated, but I've been told he was the most successful VW salesman in the country, and very quickly rose up the ranks and started going to PE to seminars and picking up vehicles and stuff. So we're talking 55, 56, 57. And it became, in 57, he discovered Elands, and he got this obsession. And that's actually a quote that I've got from him. It became an obsession of mine. And every time he came up to PE, he turned right on the way up or left on the way down, looking for waves, looking on his charts for headlands. So the worm discovered Stoll Bay, Jongensfontein, Mossel Bay, Vic Bay, Muffles Bay, and then his big discovery, he had a friend who told him about a really nice wave at the mouth of the Krom River that he must go check out. So he went through Humansdorp, and he actually got stuck, and he had to walk. The sand was over the dunes, and he had to walk, another 20 minutes or whatever, and he ended up at Hewlett's. And he always wanted to call it Whitmore's because he discovered it. But he was the first guy to surf there. That was in 1958. And in fact, Leighton Hewlett came down to the beach while John was in the water, and he struck up a friendship with Leighton. And then he started coming back, went back to Cape Town and started coming back with Dave Meneses and all the Cape Town guys, all Krause, his brother-in-law, Gordon Verhoef, the older Roger Paarman. They all started coming to Hewlett's, to surf at Hewlett's. They never saw waves at the point. They were always there in the winter. There's no evidence that they saw Bruce's breaking. And the worm loved Hewlett's because he was a goofy for that.
Yeah.
Sometime around that period, he was driving on the old R102 and stopped and looked through his binoculars and saw a right peeling above the bushes. And that was obviously probably super, and he deemed it too fast to surf. And he was a goofy, don't forget. He was like, there's plenty waves around the coast that are almost
backhander for him.
And he's just like, he loved Hewlett's, and they could camp in the Rindals and go fish in the river, and it was like the ideal up coast weekend. But they also, they surfed at Plet. They discovered so many surf spots, those guys. But in particular, the worm, West Coast and East Coast. And
but
so
it was on a trip. I beg your pardon. Sorry.
Yeah, so that was, and then, you talk about Bruce Brown. So Bruce Brown came through South Africa in December 1963. He was in Cape Town. Wow. And, they were going up the East Coast, and they organized the whole thing with Terence Bullen. and John told them to go to St. Francis to go surf Hewlett's, the reef.
Correct.
She was.
And that's how that whole story came about. Was that they went there and they spent the night in Hewlett's bungalow, and Mike Hinson actually woke up the next morning and walked down to the beach to go and smoke some Zorl. He had a little pipe that he was smoking Zorl.
Unusual.
And and the whole story was that they actually got skunked on the way up. They surfed the one session at Wilderness, which was sort of small offshore, but that was the only waves they got on the way up and they were actually the mood in the van was really bad. They were all at each other's throats and they hadn't got any footage, and so Mike Hinson went to wake the guys up, and they wouldn't wake up. They told them, and eventually got them up, and one thing led to the next, and that became that perfect wave. They drove straight past Jobo. I don't think the worm even told them about it, because he reckoned it's too fast to surf. Don't even bother, Then they went to East London, and Mike, what's his name? His name always slips in mind. Mike. No, the PE guy. Dave?
Mike?
The surfer from PE. Mike, what's his name, man?
No, it's older.
Anyway, they went to East London and they told the East London guys, and then they went to Durban and hooked up with Max Wetland and the boys and told them about St. Francis. And this was in January 1964. So as the story goes, then Max Wetland and a couple of other guys then shot down, probably April 64, shot down to and they couldn't find Bruce's, and obviously they didn't know about Jobo. So they ended up at Seal, but it was onshore. And they apparently got skunked and drove back to Durban without surfing. At the same time, a couple of Cape Town guys, Cape Town crews, had gone up there. And as the story goes, John was showing waterlogged in
That's
PE.
right, in Port Elizabeth.
And he met up with these crews. It was John Grendon and Murph Bockhorst and a couple of other guys. And they met at the petrol station in Humansdorp.
Andy
John was coming
Spengler.
back.
Wow.
Andy Spengler was another one. And John said, why don't you go and check out this wave in J-Bay? And if you get skunked, there's a great fish and chip shop there. You can go and get some fish and chips.
Yes.
From that petrol station, they would have gone straight down the old road.
Yeah, and so they went to J-Bay. This is all stuff that I've researched, and I've spoken to. I've interviewed about 120 people for this book, and so that this is all from the horse's mouth, and the stories differ slightly. Everyone's got a slightly different version, but this is something that I've pieced together. And obviously, a guy like Paul Buerter was very informative because he's also done a lot of similar work.
Yes.
And apparently the guys went down and they ended up at Impossibles, and apparently they paddled out, and the only one of them that caught a wave was Mike Grendon. So that's one story, that Mike Grendon was the first guy to actually catch a wave at J-Bay. And then Murph Bockhorst actually walked down to Point and then came back and said, hey, come check this out. And they went down to Point, and obviously it was breaking a little bit more mellow, and they all paddled out and all caught a couple of waves. So that's the one story. There's another story. There was Klaus Andrup and a couple of other guys that surfed the J-Bay in that same period, but they don't actually know who was there first. Because
the irony, I was going to say, the irony of this thing is, how would you ever actually know? I mean, how would I know if he surfs supers today? Unless he tells me.
Exactly. So that's
the carry on. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
So that's another story. But a lot of the guys have talked to each other, and they reckon that crew with Andy Spengler and John Grendon was the first Cape Town crew to surf J-Bay. And then in hindsight, I was just doing some research and going through all my notes and stuff this morning. And Funny Helvel claimed to have gone down there as well around that period and surf J-Bay. And then, Mike, you mentioned that some of the PE guys also said that they surfed there.
Well,
Mush's definitely lays claim to surfing there. Yeah. One of the first. And
Mushad.
In the early 60s.
Yeah, early 60s. And the other guys that were older than him also have some claims to surfing.
Yeah.
Point, though, not anywhere else.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's quite a few different claims to who surfed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's all over but 120 people is a lot of people as well to interview.
Yeah, no,
But it's been over many, many years. It's been a passion
Gee whiz.
project, and a lot of them have been in Cape Town, and obviously a lot of relatives of John's, and a lot of guys like John Grendon, and I'm really stoked to have done this. It's not something that I thought of before I started, but in the 10 or 12 years that I've been doing this, it was a big break where I went overseas, and I didn't do anything for about 6 or 7 years, and then I got back into it. That a lot of these guys have passed away. John Grendon, Donald Paarman, there's quite a long list, probably about 20% of the people that I've spoken. Margaret Smith, I visited her at her dog kennel in just outside Heidelberg, Swellendam. I visited her a couple of times. What a sweet old lady, and an unsung hero of South African surfing was old Margie.
Not so unsung. She was pretty up there in the day.
No, in the day,
She
but
was
I
a
think
hero
now,
of most of the girls. Yeah.
Really?
no, I mean Margie is just, I think, look, she is recognized, but I think she should be more recognized in the mainstream. She was really a pioneer. She really braved the odds and the chauvinism and the big boards. She told me stories about how she used to come back battered because she was a little thing, and she was riding these big Whitmore boards. Jeez. And so there's probably about 4 or 5 different stories about who first J-Bay. And I always say to the guys, like, it doesn't really matter, who was the first. It's like a bit of an ego trip, and it doesn't really matter. Did the guys keep it secret? I mean, certainly the Cape Town guys didn't keep it secret. You had the likes of Gus Goebel, who was also, one of the first guys to surf J-Bay. And then he was so enamored by the place, he bought a block of property, he told me, and fell in love with the place. So definitely, I think those pioneers are the guys that started the J-Bay as a surf destination, and then very quickly, the overseas guys started coming over. It's quite interesting to think that after Bruce and Robert August and Mike Hinson came to South Africa, the next international surfer to come here was Joyce Hoffman, and she came here in 1967. There were no other internationals that came until Joyce came. And then suddenly, there was just after the end of summer. I think Joyce came in late 66, early 67. But after the end of summer blew up in overseas, then the floodgates opened and everybody, J-Bay being discovered.
I mean, that ultimately showed surfers that it was quite easy to travel and to go to different places around the world.
I mean, that wave that Mike Hinson caught at Bruce's was just a game changer in South Africa. Surfing history, South African surfing history. They'd really made, it was just the catalyst that spawned everything. And it was the worm who was the sort of the puppet master behind everything.
Correct.
Correct. Interesting just to know that I mean, and it's just really the marketing and the fact that that movie did well, that whatever was behind it and whatever made it happen, in those days, they had the right connections and they were able to do it. And amazing. It's from Hewlett's, this whole thing.
Would you not agree, if you go back to the Endless Summer movie, a lot of those things were embellished. I mean, he spoke about the 7 mile long wave, which is bullshit.
The whole story about the dune thing and everything, they pulled in there late in the previous evening. They were all fighting with each other. And they almost didn't film that. The oaks were gut full of Bruce and his silly little vignettes, and they just wanted to get on the road, because they filmed that after they surfed, and the oaks were pumped. They were tired. But also, funny enough, that movie actually did a lot for South African tourism.
Yes,
and they reckon that from 66, 67 onwards, and I mean that movie showed for 2 or 3 years consistently all over the world. I mean, I think something like 2 million people watched it. The first 2 or 3 years that it was being shown. It did massive things for South African tourism and actually spurred non-surfing tourism as well because of all the scenery in the movie. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to pick up on another thing about J-Bay, and that's its importance in contests. Because the UM in 66, 67, then 68, they had the first Springbok trials. And the world contest was supposed to be in Hawaii in 1968. They ended up cancelling it, and they actually they sort of cancelled the Springbok team. Max Wetland was the first seed, and they had the first trials in the Eastern Cape, and that was the Oom. He wanted neutral territory between the Durban and the Cape Town guy.
Yes.
So he picked the Eastern Cape to have all the Springbok trials. The first trials was in 68, then 69, 70, 71. All those, that was the Oom. And his whole thing was, and Gavin told me, there's a quote from Gavin, his whole game was to make it gnarly and hairy and pick the strongest team of the Oaks that weren't chicken. Yeah. And so that echoes what Chris was saying about the Springbok trials.
Correct.
They would have, and then they started having, obviously, I think the first SA champs were 69.
That's right, yes.
In J Bay at Point, which Gavin Thermopolis won. And so J Bay is really, and then Midget Farrelly also came that year. And that was the first year the Gunston the Durban 500 was held. But they would take the guys, they would camp out at Keerbooms and then drive up and down the coast, surfing Buffalo Bay and Vic Bay. Okay. And in the end, they ended up at J Bay. So, these J Bay's got a really strong sort of, obviously it's the best wave in the country. So it's got a really strong place or really solid place in competitive surfing history in South Africa as well, because most of the Springbok teams from 69 onwards or 68, excuse me, they had at least one of the days at J Bay, to pick the teams.
I was just saying that they've actually, I don't know what's happening next year, but I don't think it is here next year. The WSL is not here. This year is not on anymore. And also another thing I heard this last year as well is that Zigzag has stopped producing now.
Unfortunately,
yeah. Gee whiz. I mean, was that a big part of your life as well, Miles?
It was. I mean, Blunt magazine was part of the Zigzag stable, and
and Miles, talking about books, I beg your pardon, talking about books, excuse my ignorance, your book on John Whitmore, has it been launched?
No, it's finished.
Okay.
And I finished it probably around October last year, really, stepped back and said to myself, okay, I'm done now, And so since then I've been trying to get funding to print it.
Publish it.
Yeah, and I don't want to do a half-assed job because everything that Worm did was quality. I mean, his boards were the Rolls Royces, and I don't want to, just do a flimsy paperback. I want to do a nice book that really honors his legacy.
And I assume you've been to VW for funding.
I've actually approached VW, they turned me down. Quite bad feedback here.
Well, we've got the head of VW Worldwide is in St. Francis Bay as well. He's got a spot in St. Francis.
He was on the show.
So you'll have to organise something there.
When you hear that feedback, I've got some really bad feedback.
No, that's we're okay this side. But Miles, thank you so much, man. For coming on. It's been amazing to your stories and the depth of knowledge of the history is fantastic.
I'm going to send off those rules to this week. John Whitmore.
Sorry, I've got some really bad feedback here. I can't hear you.
Okay. Miles, thank you for joining us. Miles can message you on WhatsApp. It's been absolutely stunning. Okay, that's my I think we must get Bruce on for a final hurrah. Bruce Gold, let's chat to Bruce. Let's stand up here. Bruce, how are you, man?
Hey, there's some bad feedback. I can't hear a thing. Oh, it stopped.
It's stopped now. Oh, good. I'm glad. Oh, you can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Terrible.
Something's distorting it.
Yeah, now it sounds okay. Now it's okay.
Okay. Is it better now? Okay. Okay, cool. Google code go on just back this side. All right. So Bruce, Bruce, when did you get to? Oh, this was a fun. Bruce, Dave's going to have a pee outside quickly. But Bruce,
you entertain him for 2 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brewster, I'll be back now.
I'm chatting to Bruce now because I remember, Bruce, the first time I heard about you was on a TV SABC TV thing. It must have been like, I don't know, 1980 something or 90. You introduced yourselves as the last great white hippie in J-Bay.
Asian Taste with Betty Kemp.
Aiton Taste. Yes, so Betty Kemp. Oh, say no. But Bruce, when did you get to J-Bay? Have you been there all your life?
Yeah, I beat all those. I was there in 1953. We came for
1953.
I was 6 years
Oh,
old.
my
We
soul.
came for Sunday dinner at the Beach Hotel, and my brother got a fishbone stuck in his throat. That's what stuck in the memory.
Gee, was that one of the farmers?
No, people don't know. I grew up in the Eastern Cape quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Where were you born, Bruce?
Nou, ek is in Pietermaritzburg gebore. But I first came to Jeffreys Bay in the end of 1968 surfing, because this is meant to be about J Bay, not about me.
Yes, absolutely.
So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
right.
had a longboard,
and
a longboard with no leg rope. And I didn't really like J Bay. All those rocks, I cut my toe, I lose my board every now and again. The board gets dinged. Water was cold, but it was all right. You know what I mean? I found it acceptable.
Okay.
It grew on me,
Good. Excellent. And so that's where your journey started. Did you just move down? Where did you stay? Was it your family?
No. It was camping at the point in those days. We had cold shower, toilets, little sign on the toilet saying, please preserve our trees and bushes. And the next time I come, they're bulldozing it all away. They raped Jeffreys Bay rapidly. Yeah. But it was wonderful. We camped at the surface point in the old days. You paid a nominal amount and you were right there at the point. Yeah. 1968, they had the first SA surfing competition there. And I remember old Esposito beat Gavin Rudolph there, which was amazing. Or Mike Esposito was a hell of a surfer. Yeah.
Esposito is like a Mexican.
Yeah, I know, he was a Durbaner.
He's a Durban guy.
Just a normal Durbaner. But I don't know where he got the name from.
Oh, maybe it sounds like Portuguese, maybe something.
What happened? Mike Esposito, what a surfer.
Yeah, for sure. And now, and Bruce, so that's when your surfing thing started there, obviously. And have you just stayed there all your life?
No way. No, I went back to Durban.
Yeah.
I'd spent 3 years in the police force. That's right. Then I'd go back to Durban. I'd drive taxis, night shift, save some money. 3 months in Durban, back to J Bay.
Did you ever catch any criminals?
Hey?
Did you ever catch any criminals when you were a policeman?
Oh, we had to look for submarines. They were bringing terrorists in and guns in the old days. We had Land Rovers. Looking for submarines, I never found one. Damn it.
Brucey, isn't it great at doing the background? Let's just paint a little picture of your first memories of J Bay.
Pardon? My first what?
Your first memories of J Bay or any
the
stories?
gravel roads and the no houses.
No, that's Richie Jordan next to me. Richie Jordan himself.
Hello, Ricky Jordan. How's a Ricky Brew?
Hello, brother. He's just been talking to Chris on my telephone. Now, Chris couldn't believe Ricky's sitting right next to me. He's photobombing the show. He's photobombing the show.
Yeah.
I check that. I check
Ricky's
that.
also a cooler.
Hello, Ricky.
Nice to see you, Ricky. And also big in surfing, J-Bay surfer.
Yeah, I used to surf well.
Ricky's semi-retired now. He was as good, if not better, than all those Bay youngsters. He was just older than Sean. They all looked up to him. But he never went pro.
Okay.
He went to Australia and lived the life instead. Yeah. Now he's come back to J-Bay.
Yeah, Shem, it was a question.
Get back in the water soon. Yeah.
Oh, I hope so.
So
Yeah, I fixed his wetsuit for him the other day. He's supposed to use it.
There we go.
When you're waiting.
Your wetsuit, Ricky.
No.
He's fixed your wetsuit.
Now I've got my back. I've got my wetsuit back. And I've been using it.
But you haven't used
Not
it.
long, John. I've been short, John. It's always been warm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
back to the
good,
history.
good.
Back to the history.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And stories.
Thank you.
To
Cut it to smithereens.
cut a long story to smithereens, yeah. Obviously, it's obvious. Okay, I'm not going to get it started. The first people to surf Jeffreys Bay would have been from Port Elizabeth. Give them a gap. I mean,
100%,
everyone comes to J Bay for Sunday dinner sooner or later. They must have surfed. And the story goes that the first people to surf Jeffreys Bay from PE, they surfed super tubes anyway. I'm sure Dave can corroborate this. They didn't know where to surf and they were small. They went surfing. Hey, Dave, have you heard that
maybe
story?
Mush.
Yeah,
I
Mush
have,
hard.
yeah.
I'm a gentleman.
Mush's lays claim to having been one of the first.
I'm sure he would have been.
But there was very little communication in those days between people from the Cape and people from Natal and people from East. So to try and put a date on who was there first is literally impossible. Unless you've got a picture with a date on it, you have got no claim to surfing J-Bay.
Correct.
For the
And then
first
also
time.
that story, the story with Maury and the Beast surfing it the first time. With their, I heard they were wearing khakis. They had the one board. This was in Donald Paarman's story, Kom Reg Vandag, in the Tracks magazine. And they had a fire going on the beach, and they knew the waves were cooking. They were waiting for it.
Excuse me.
The one guy would surf the board. When he lost it, the other guy would jump on. And it was a long board cut down to 8 foot. That sounds interesting. But then Gavin says he and Keith Paul were surfing tubes one day. And they edged up there and they edged up to super tubes. And they rode it. They reckon that was most probably the first time, end of 68. That he said the boards they were riding.
There were guys who surfed it. The guys surfed it before, but it was by mistake.
Yes.
They didn't surf it deliberately. They went out there because they didn't know any better. But there were guys in the early 60s who paddled out at supers, never made a single wave, and eventually ended up at a point where they could end up surfing properly. But
Is it just too quick generally for
a
big
longboard, it was
For
impossible.
a big board.
For those boards, it was absolutely impossible.
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
Only when the advent of the performance shortboard of the day came around.
Pintails.
No, there were big V bottoms and stuff.
Okay.
That one that Wayne Lynch surfed, remember, was like a big V bottom. He surfed it. And
What sort of year would that have been, Dave?
70, eh, Brucey? 69, 70.
Yeah, in the 68 when they surfed supers for the first time. That's what I understand. That's what Johnny also said. Yeah. But
Yeah, sorry, Dave. You were going to say something?
Carry on, Bruce.
Yeah, Mike's got pictures of me surfing on a longboard at supers. Movies. But they were.
I'm more interested in
longboard. And I don't make a habit of it.
I'm more interested. You referred to Donald Paarman's book, Kom Reg Vandag.
That was an article he wrote.
Oh, it was an article.
His book was called LSD.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Dave. But then I remember you telling me once about Bunker Spreckles. The guy inherited all the money.
What a nutter.
What's that?
Yeah, no.
Hy was te wild vir die wildtuin.
That's the article they did in the Zigzag. Yeah, he opened the hotel one afternoon on his birthday. From 4 o'clock till 9 o'clock, we could drink what we like, with plenty of snacks involved. Yeah. He was a wild child.
An unbelievable guy. I mean, he was mates with, I've seen mates with Mick Jagger, and he inherited, I think, am I right in saying his mother married a famous actor?
Something like that.
Who was the actor, Bruce?
Oh, it was
Clark
Spencer
Gable.
Tracy.
No, Clark Gable, I think.
It was Clark Gable, that's right, not Spencer Tracy, Clark Gable.
Correct.
He had Clark Gable's knife. But he inherited money from
Yes.
His grandfather was Adolf Spreckels, and he was Adolf. That's why they called him Bunker. He didn't want to be called Adolf Spreckels. And his grandfather was a sugar millionaire from Hawaii.
That's right, a sugar baron.
Sugar millionaire, yeah. And he was a healthy, super healthy guy in Hawaii. They were riding these little boards, 4 inches thick. He had handles on the rails, and they were short, and they were top speed boards. He would belly board, knee board, or stand up at pipeline faster than. It was a special group of them riding these crazy boards. Yeah. But he came to JB.
Didn't he wreck though?
Yes,
Didn't he wreck a few hotels there in JB and then just quite a check in? Was it the Savoy?
He wrecked that Savoy hotel, and then he moved to the Beach Hotel. That's where he held the party. But Peter Daniels and him got on like a house on fire. And Peter made him a black Faith surfboard with a beautiful black face. But he also rode the twin fin there. There's a movie about Bunker, and he rides this twin fin, and it's not so easy to ride a twin fin at big supers. But he does handle it.
Yeah.
Bruce, do you remember Bunker doing a headstand on a skateboard down that hill from Aston Bay? Did you ever see him doing it? On his head.
Is that Baltimore?
Past John Ross's house.
Where John Ross is back in town. I used to sweep that road.
Yeah, that house.
And they would say, Jesus swept.
I saw Bunker coming down that hill on his head. Seriously, on his head, with both hands on the skateboard, flat out all the way down the road.
Man, they used to do stuff like that in the 70s with his
no helmet, no nothing. Yeah. If he fell off the skateboard, he would have wiped his face off on the top.
Jeez.
But he did it, and he was good at it.
Of course. And apart from that, Larry Levine made surfboards in John Ross's house, and Sharon started off her business in a little cottage in John Ross's garden there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sewing those baggies.
Doing the little baggies with I showed your legs off. I wore a pair once. They said, no, legs like mine, you can't be seen in public.
And Bruce, just some background on some of the great surfers you've seen there at JB over the years.
Oh yeah, no, as you're gonna say, there were so many all the way around, but I just checked certain styles. Mike Kuntz had the most laid-back style you've ever seen. And Matt Young said in his book about him surfing Sunset Beach Big, he surfed Sunset Beach like he's skateboarding down the road with his hands in his back pocket. And that's exactly how smooth he was. He had a 7.6 Diffenderfer. Diffenderfer was here shaping a few boards. Amazing. And
remember Terry Fitzgerald's style?
Yes, but just before he came along, another guy from the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, not the Brotherhood of Eternal Light. They were here, and this one guy, John Paarman, he also had a very slinky, snaky style. Mike Kuntz was with those boys. They had all escaped from they were on the run from jails in Spain. They were naughty boys. They were compressing.
What was the Brotherhood all about?
What's this Brotherhood story? It sounds like Charles Manson stuff going on.
It was the Brotherhood of Eternal Life. They were trying to start a psychedelic revolution, spreading the acid around. Let the hippies take over the world. Yeah, that time.
So it's exactly like a Charles Manson thing.
Yes.
No, I remember Ricky Chadwick.
There's books written about it and movies. I sent you the link today. You can see all those books and movies about the Brotherhood of Eternal Love.
Okay.
They even in that movie that you've got my movie, Mark. You can even watch my movie on the internet now on YouTube. It's called Watch Him Play. Watch Him Play.
Watch Him Play. I've watched it.
And they're in that movie. And all these guys used to surf so well are in that movie. Wayne Lynch. Wayne Lynch on his backhand. Oh, it's so smooth.
The best.
The only one is like Simon Fish. Simon Fish surfs like that. It's slinky, stylish. But then Simon can also.
He's East London boykie.
Simon lives in Seals.
Yes.
Does he live in Seals? Does he live in Seals now?
Yeah,
What a lovely guy, Simon Fish.
He's in Gans Bay at the moment. With
Okay.
Anyway.
Badger.
No,
Badger.
That North Coast really good goofy foot. What's his name? Dive fisherman. Anyway, the good surfers from that time was GP. I mean, JP John Parton, and then as you say, Terry Fitzgerald and those guys came. But then there was the South African boy, the king from St. Michael's, Geoff Hoffman. He was 6'4" and loose. And a barrel rider of note.
That guy could hit the lip better than anybody. He hit the lip better than Johnny, and that's something. Hey, Johnny, is he gone, Johnny?
Yeah.
Does it stay on forever?
Johnny was lovely.
Fell off a lot, but he was great at it.
Reckless.
Johnny was lovely and reckless. Also in that movie of ours, I don't know why you're not showing a clip of Johnny surfing with the flipping the sun in the background there, Chiaroscuro. Beautiful.
I've got lovely footage of Jonny Paarman up. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got footage.
But Bruce,
I've got lovely footage of Jonny Paarman.
Bruce, before we start wrapping up here with Dave, we're going to we just need one story from you, something that resonates with you about Jeffrey's, maybe a time or something that went that happened that you can tell us.
Something about me. Talk about me.
Yeah.
We lived on the hill.
Yeah.
With Tues Mariano.
Yes.
And we looked down at Super Tues.
Okay.
And it's 800 meters away or K supers.
Yeah.
And it's cooking this morning. It's early. It's 6, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Before 7. And I just run down, paddle out the channel, hair dry. I've got this beautiful 8'4" Roger Hans from Hawaii surfboard. Hey, it's magic.
Wow.
I'm out the back paddling. I said, where's everybody? Where's everyone? I'm paddling out by the car park. There's 2 or 3 people there. Suddenly these 3 waves come rolling through. Oh, my sack. This is not my cup of tea. No. Where's everyone? Anyway, it's further out, and then suddenly a set rolls through, and one of those waves looked acceptable. I was in the way, in fact. I think I had to sort of best you take this one before they get bigger than this one.
Yeah.
And anyway,
Yes.
And it was a northwest wind, and the northwest puts a riffle, a devil wind, puts a bump in the wave. And if the spray gets into it in your eyes, anyway, I slid in easy. I made the drop. And they say, oh, Bruce Gold. I never rated him as such a good surfer. That was that guy who was struck by lightning who said that. Who was that? Anyway, he got struck by lightning shortly after saying that. I wish I could remember his name.
Brucey, my Bruce, we're going to have 10 minutes with Dave.
I'm going to cut the long story. They say Bruce can only do a soul arch and go straight. Mark was on the beach with the SAB.
I've got a great...
He took that clip. I did 4 turns. I didn't go just straight. They were all stand-up bottom turns. Okay.
Oh, man. Bruce Gold.
Terry Fitzgerald
I
could do
remember
it
that.
better. But Terry Sims, he was the king of the soul arts. Terry Sims came a couple of times over the years, also with the Roger Hahn board.
You were.
Terry Sims. Okay, you can cut me. Cut.
Bruce,
Brewster.
you've been absolutely fantastic. We've had a good jaw today, and it was a good way to end with you as well, Bruce.
And we want to talk to Dave a bit.
Thank you so much. We're going to have a quick chat to Dave and finish it off. But part of Bruce Gold, thank you. Part of the Jabba history for sure, Bruce. We can take our headphones off now. We've got nobody online now, so we don't have to worry.
Jesus.
And guys, Dave, I don't know, reflecting on all this that's been spoken about, anything that you can sort of wrap up with.
Like they all say, there's so many bits and pieces that happened, and a lot of them, the ones that Chris brought up now, are things that we forgot about.
Yeah,
I remember walking up to his shaping bay, because the cars were sort of difficult to come by in the day, and we used to walk around a lot, and we ran out of petrol, you know. So and seeing him and his mother in this place, and he was a youngster, 15 years old, shaping his
what a lovely
surfboards.
guy.
Learnt, I think, most of his trade from Peter Daniels, who was one of the boys in J-Bay. Didn't get a lot of mention today, but Peter Daniels was one of the better surfers of his time in Jeffries, and one of the renowned shapers of his time as well. He made many Faith surfboards.
Faith is I've seen Faith many
was
times.
made by Robbie Ponting and Ken Freeland, and then Peter Daniels arrived, and he also started
to go
at Faith. Yeah, he was a bit of a takeover sort of dude. PD. He was a strong-minded, very strong.
But now you were saying earlier that you bought the surf center from the Paarmans.
From the Paarmans.
Had you shaped the surfboard prior to that?
No, I've never shaped surfboards.
You didn't shape. The shaping.
I was of the opinion that hiring other people to do the good work was better. Because if they got bad, which they did, you could get rid of them and get someone else. Once, if you were the shaper, you were kind of stuck with yourself.
Like Dennis, you mean?
Look, if you look at the brands around the world now, you'll see that a lot of them have got shapers' names on them.
Yes.
And it wasn't always good, you know. It was, and now those shapers are hiring other shapers that are better than them to do the work.
So did you never shape them?
Never shaped a board.
But the sea flight stuff, who was shaping for you then?
Glenn Darcy was.
Glenn Darcy.
Glenn was working for Ernie Thompson in Durban, and he came down and did some work for me, and I stole him from Ernie Thompson.
Okay.
And
Headhunted.
we worked together for the time that we did Sea Flight. I started way before that.
I had a sea flight.
I made Levine surfboards when Larry went to Australia.
Levine as well?
I took over Larry's little factory. I was living in California, and Larry got a hold of me. I was going to say texted me, but it wasn't. I think it might have been a telex or something. Saying he's leaving, do I want to come back and take over the factory? And that's how I started making surfboards professionally. But I made surfboards in my garage in Knutsen in the late 60s, but always believed that, and I used to buy shape blanks from Clive Barber, who in Cape Town was the best underground shaper. And I used to glass them and do all the other work. And that's how I learned to make surfboards. And then I moved in with Larry in the mid-70s in Jeffries. And Larry Levine was the opposition to Faith and the Pontings and the Freelands.
And Sea Flight, I believe.
Sea Flight came later. Sea Flight came in the 80s. So Levine's, I was sponsored by Larry.
Sea Flight.
Larry was, in my opinion, because I couldn't get in with Faith anyway, because it was those guys, was the best option, and he sponsored me and made surfboards for me. I wasn't really good enough, but I was good at selling surfboards. So I used to take boards to Cape Town and put them in my room and sell them to the guys. And
Dave, if I may ask, where is Larry today?
Larry's in Jeffries. He started up he gave up shaping and became a builder. And he's done a few houses. He's okay. You know.
Oh, good on.
Good to hear these guys are still around.
He gave up surfing, and he went down a different path. But yeah,
So these are J-based shapers as well. I mean,
Mary Levine
Glenn Darcy.
in the 70s and 80s was one of the top shapers from Jeffries.
Local Motion, what was that?
That was me.
That
Local
you?
Motion,
Local Motion as well?
Yeah, Local Motion was a brand from Hawaii
Okay.
that we went over and acquired because in the day it was a good thing. Town and Country was around.
Yes, Town and Country as well.
We had Local Motion and made a hell of a lot of them.
Yeah. I've got a longboard, Local Motion.
Yeah, I still make a few now and then, but once again, making surfboards and shaping surfboards are two different things.
I see you've been fixing up some of the old sea flights.
Yeah, I like to
Where do
restore
I see
them.
these things? Or where does
What?
one see them? The
sea-
boards at your shop?
At Surf Centre's quite a few of them.
The
up
one in
room.
Newwood?
Yeah, there's only one left.
Yeah, the one in Newwood now.
And I wanted to ask you about that as well, Dave.
The surf shops,
is
surf
it
thing.
a viable business?
No,
It's a labour of love.
the surf shops haven't been viable for many years since
Yeah.
You wanted to ask about the brand since the brands became gluttonous
I was going to say, I mean,
And-
we've spoken about this.
and
Geez, you're going
decided to sell their product retail.
Yeah.
It simply destroyed the surf shop, independent
Yeah.
surf shop industry.
Yeah.
There are still a few successful ones,
Yeah.
but in general they all are
And
finding it difficult.
would it also be to do with the online issue?
No,
No.
no, online. Sure, you can buy online, but you can't
Yeah.
touch anything online.
Correct.
Don't you think it's
100%.
more
There's
to
good
do?
points.
It's more to do with the? It's like a music shop as well. The music shops are battling as well. It's the fact that you used to go to a shop and you meet up with Dave and all the other surfers that are hanging around in the shop, having a jaw, talking about the waves, talking about the thing, and you become part of that community.
Sure. And there was a support structure,
Yeah.
where you were a supporter of that surf center or lifestyle surf shop in Muizenberg or
Yeah.
Neil Dawood's old lifestyle.
Oceans,
Oceans,
Beach
John
Break.
McLeod, those.
Was that
those
John
were
McLeod
your-
as well?
John
Yeah.
McLeod
Yeah.
was Oceans. yeah.
And
Were
Pat
those
Ellis.
good days? Were those good days?
They
for
were
surf
good
shops?
days for surf shops. We made a shit ton of money in those days, and we sold the brands. We sold in the first era. We sold Ocean Pacific, Lightning Bolt, Hang 10. Those were the brands.
Yeah.
They died, and then Gotcha and Instinct came along, and they were very, very powerful.
Yeah.
But they were careful how they marketed their products,
Yeah.
and they made sure that the people that were retailing them were looked after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then big business got involved, and Edgar's decided to
Yeah.
buy into surf. And
Yes.
if you're sitting in your office and you need some money, and Edgar's come to you and say, "Listen, we want to buy
Yeah.
10,000 pairs of board shorts and 5,000 t-shirts."
Of course, they're going to get a better price.
Well, they gave them a discount, but they sold so many of them that
Yeah.
they could now produce volume and make more money.
Yeah.
And the labor of love that was surfing became commercial.
Yeah.
And Dave, wasn't it visible? Or, I mean, if you look at Billabong as an example, I mean, they went through massive trauma around the world or globally.
Well, all of them. Quicksilver, Billabong,
Yeah.
Ripcool have now sold out to a corporate.
Yeah.
It's not a viable business
Yeah.
for an independent owner.
Yeah.
If you stick it into a bunch of brands and you make it a product that you're selling,
Yeah.
you can make some money still out of it. Like you're selling. It's not like Nike or anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can sell a T-shirt in a shop, But back in the day when they were iconic,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they got very greedy, and they got huge pressure from their
Shareholders.
overseas.
Shareholders.
What do you call those people who own the business? And these people were franchise holders.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
people from overseas were saying, "Well, you guys are not making enough money.
Mm.
How do you want us to keep you with the brand?" And now these people are making good money
Yeah.
for themselves, but South Africa wasn't big enough,
Yeah.
surfer-wise, to support the brand.
Yeah.
So they had to go and sell it to the public. And
Well, the interesting
That was
thing
the
about
problem.
what you're saying is, if you look at what's going on with the WSL, and I mean, it's not only the clothing side.
it's
of it,
tapped out.
It's the whole thing. Is
Yeah.
just
It's tapped out. Yeah.
you're right.
Tapped out.
So we need to find that again, but Dave, I think we've hit a couple of comments just before we get to our competition as well, and say thank yous and goodbyes. Michelle Carr, there's so many memories, J-Bay all the way. Margot Saunders. Margot, what a great surfer as well. Margot, and love Margot. She's great. She's got is it Igoti?
Huh?
Igoti. I love that stuff. I need a lazy Susan, Margot. I need a lazy Susan. Paul van Jaarsveld, how's it? Loving the stories. Bruce Gold. Thanks to Bruce as well. Yeah, no problem. I see. Thank you, Chris. He's saying thanks to Chris there as well. Johnny Everett. The old sucker this newly arrived lighty into peddling. What?
Who's that saying?
I don't know.
Everett.
He's
the old
Bully.
Yeah.
He's the old Bully. There we go.
Johnny!
A dirty water hole in the rip, and he got launched. Take a two-wave hold down, shame. He is like that. It's hectic. There we go, Gavin Rudolph. He's been mentioned quite a few times, Gavin, of course, as well. Dennis, we haven't really mentioned as well, but Dennis, what a legend as well. Yeah, Dennis, he's been on the show before. Bruce from your goddaughter. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Bruce has got family.
Give it to him. He's got family all over.
But surprises every day.
Yeah.
Dave Lipschitz, thank you so much for coming on and anchoring our show here. You know everybody.
It's been more fun listening to the other guys.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Ivor Waite, thank you, Ivor. And we're going to do our competition now as well. We've got all you guys that are on now. We're going to put you in a draw. Whoever comes out on as the winner is going to get a case of Fitch and Leeds. So let's check who it's going to be. I don't know. We pulled the leader. Grant Barber. Grant Barber, you are the winner, and we will get hold of you. We'll get Wendy to get hold of you. Thank you, all of you for joining us. Thank you to Spa. Thank you to Fitch and Leeds and Sovereign, as well as Amobia for our internet. And thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next week. Next week we've got the jazz legends in next week. It's Kanya Matomela and his dad, Wela Matomela. African jazz. We're going to be chatting about jazz next week. So if you're into jazz, pull in next week and we'll do it. But thank you so much, Dave. You've been a legend as well. Thanks for coming all the way in.
Thank you.
You've been great.
Thanks.
And we'll see you next week. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Rock bottom, somewhere between the grace of God and another double brandy and coke here. What do you say? It's not much of a picture postcard place. There's not much of a tourist destination. I'm sure you'll agree if, like me, you're a cynic in every single way.